I would say the biggest mistake is
Nate Graham, welcome to the podcast. Today we're going to be talking about freight sales as a lucrative career for somebody in their 20s, somebody starting out, sort of early career. If you wouldn't mind kind of kicking us off with how you got to Fifth Wheel and how long you've been here and sort of your path to where you are now.
Yeah, well, thank you for having me, first of all.
Of course.
Kind of how I got to Fifth Wheel is, I started off right after high school working at UPS.
Okay.
And kind of the main reason I started there is they did tuition reimbursement.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I knew I wanted to go to college.
Yeah.
Also knew it was expensive.
Yeah.
So
Very.
I saw that they did the tuition reimbursement and that they could help. It was crazy. They actually, I basically went to GRCC for free. Then I ended up transferring to Davenport University for my last few years to get my bachelor's in business management. I worked there for 7 years. So I actually thought UPS was going to be my career. I started at the bottom. Loading the trucks every day that you see delivering, the brown trucks. And I worked my way up to a part-time supervisor doing that while I'm going to school. I even then started driving, so I even delivered for a year and a half. And then eventually I took a full-time operations management role, and I was in Kalamazoo. This was my last year at UPS.
Okay.
Things were going great. I was making good money, but I just woke up one day and I was like, I wanna change.
I've heard UPS and FedEx are great places to work for. I have a family member who works for FedEx, and but obviously you were itching for something new.
Yeah, I was itching for something new after 7 years, and I didn't have a plan at all. I think this was September of maybe 22.
Okay.
And I ended up just quitting and no plan at all. It worked out. I started here a few months later in January of 23, I believe it would be. Here I am 3 years later and loving what I do, and I'm glad I made that decision.
Yeah. What do you think is the biggest misconception about this industry? Maybe something you thought going in that you quickly changed your mind on, or maybe it took a while to change your mind on, but just any sort of misconception about 3PLs in general or working for 3PLs?
I would say a lot has to do with even coming from UPS, that's transportation logistics kind of. I wasn't necessarily doing the sales type role like I am here.
Right.
So now transitioning into this sales type of role, I would say a big misconception is dealing with, I'm trying to think of the good word here, hard people to work with, in logistics, because you're making cold calls, then you're working with carriers that are hard at work driving all day long. So I would say that you think that you're going to work with all these people that are mad and just don't really want to talk to you, but really, you're going to meet a lot of nice people and build some really good relationships, whether it's with the customer or the carrier. So I think that's huge, and that's a big misconception.
For sure. No, that makes a lot of sense. It's a massive industry. I'm sure you're the same way. I had no idea how large of an industry it was until I was in it. And, the bad apples, unfortunately, sometimes ruin it for whatever the phrase is, ruin it for all the apples. But there's just so many good people in this industry. What was sort of your first big win early on that really solidified, hey, this is a good spot for me?
Well, shout out to Amy at Move Strong Functional Fitness Equipment. That was my first customer ever.
Amy.
Yeah. Full truckload. That was my first customer ever. I think it was about 3 weeks in. So I had to shout her out. That kind of jump-started my career, right? That was my first customer. After that, I just continued to have success. My next big win would be creating my team. So it was about 10 months in. I created my team with Evan, James, and Carter. Basically, ever since, we're just rolling. We're continuing to bring on customers, give them good service, and continuing to grow.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's awesome. What do you feel was your biggest rookie mistake early on? Maybe just a general sales mistake or a mistake in logistics that you were like, ooh, yikes?
I would say the biggest mistake is not communicating enough with your customer, especially when something goes wrong.
Right.
So for example, right at the beginning, it wasn't with my first customer, but maybe my second or third. And, I'm getting this opportunity to move a truckload and the carrier canceled on us.
Yeah.
And, it's probably noon at this time, 1 o'clock. I'm like, I can recover it. I'm not going to tell her. I'm just going to book a new truck.
Yeah, I'll just get it done and then just be good to go.
Just get it done and be good to go. But it ended up not working out in my favor. And then you go back to that customer, you're like, hey, I can't get you this truck today.
And I've known about this for 4 hours.
Yeah,
I've known
about this for half a day. And I'm just not telling you. That's what you don't want to do.
Yeah.
Communicate, no matter if it's good or bad, communicate it right away so you're on the same page. And that'll just build that trust factor with your customer.
Yeah. Absolutely. Obviously, you kind of talked about your first big win, getting that first customer, but when do you feel like it really kicked in, like, oh wow, I can make like a very lucrative, like from a financial perspective, a very lucrative career out of this, like from a long term?
You don't realize it until you're in that position, even when you kind of know like what salary you're at.
Yeah, they tell you early on,
Yeah.
hey, here's the base, here's the commission. You're like,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, exactly. Like, okay, but what kind of commission actually can I make?
Right.
Well, when you build a big enough book and you continue onboarding customers and growing, the commission is endless with that. Obviously there's different contracts and stuff like that, but as long as you continue to grow and expand upon your book, I mean, the commission's endless. It really gives you financial freedom. Fifth Wheel Freight did for me.
Can you touch on that a little bit more? Obviously financial freedom generally speaking, but what do you feel like it really did for you, for your life, for your family, being able to like build a career in your mid-20s?
Yeah, so like I said, at UPS I ended making great money.
Yeah.
But not even close to much as I'm making here at Fifth Wheel Freight.
Right. And I'm sure there's a ceiling there
yeah.
when you don't have like commission and things like that.
Exactly. Personally, I just closed on a house earlier this month in March.
Ooh, congrats.
Yeah, my wife and I did. So we're excited about that. Been in there for about a couple weeks, but that's just one example of what Fifth Wheel Freight will allow you to do. And then, we want to start a family. It allows you to be able to do that.
Yeah.
So that's awesome.
Kids are expensive.
Yeah, I've heard. Don't know yet, but I've heard. Diapers.
Yeah, can confirm.
Yeah. So those are a couple things that, making good money with Fifth Wheel allows you to do. So
yeah. What surprised you the most, I guess, having not been in a commission-based role before? What surprised you the most just about like commission culture? I think there's like a negative aspect about commission across all sales roles. Unless you're in sales and you already know the benefits of having a commission-based role, I think there can be a negative piece about that where people like worry about the instability, or it just feels like a scam sometimes. Yeah. Like, door-to-door sales has its own stereotypes, all that kind of thing. Like, just, I guess, what surprised you about being in a commission role?
Yeah, so this is my first commission role. Yes, I've never experienced, the different paychecks, how much they can go up and down, I guess.
Yeah.
So adjusting to that is very important. And I think, if I was to give someone some advice on that, I would say to plan, to make sure you understand your, what's going out at home on a personal level, your bills and all that type of stuff. So that way you can kind of keep track and just understand, how to manage that better.
Yeah. Any other advice that you would give to somebody in their early 20s who's like, I really want to do sales. I feel like I'd be good at it, but I'm just like nervous about the potential inconsistency of the commission piece of sales?
I would say you just have to give it a shot yourself.
High risk, high reward?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, high risk, high reward. I would just say you have to try it out for yourself. Not everything's going to work for everyone. So everyone's different.
Yeah. Touching on that, what do you think makes someone be successful in a commission-based sales role versus not so successful? Like what character traits and things like that do you think really make somebody stand out and rise to the top of the pack?
Well, I will say that the term or the saying, hard work beats talent any day. I think you have to work your tail off in this industry. You really do. There's some days where I'll be making a cold call while I'm answering a customer call because they need something. I'm quoting a customer, dealing with a problem. You got all these things coming at you, and you just gotta take it and work hard to be able to get to the top. I'm gonna continue to do that. Yeah, hard work it'll get you where you want to go if you put in the time and the effort.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you if you think freight sales is a talent game or a work ethic game, but I think you just answered that question for me. So.
Well, I think it's a little bit of both.
All right, fair enough. Yep.
So yes, you got to work hard. Obviously, you can't slack off. The more calls you make, the more opportunities you're potentially going to see.
Yeah.
But from a talent aspect, you got to know what you're talking about when you talk to customers and carriers and such. You can't just kind of babble because that's what some brokers do and they will never be successful. So you do got to understand the industry and just be knowledgeable.
Yeah.
So.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You've kind of probably touched on a few of these things already, but outside of just straight work ethic, what do you think has made you successful with your customers, or what do you think has like forged those more long-term relationships with your customers?
Well, I would say the communication aspect for sure. That's number one. So making sure you and your customer are on the same page with everything that's going on with their loads. I mean, it's their freight on kind of a random carrier's truck sometimes. They don't know them.
Yeah.
So obviously we might have that relationship built with them and know that they're going to be great and give us good service, but they don't necessarily know that. So just communicating that to them and just communicating, with anything with your customer, you just want to make sure you do that to be successful. And like I said, build that trust with them.
Yeah, absolutely. What would you say to somebody who's considering a sales career or very much looking for a sales career, but they're leaning more towards the stereotypically desirable sales careers, if you will, tech sales, medical sales, those sorts of things, that maybe hasn't considered freight sales yet? Like, what would you maybe say to them? Obviously, you haven't been in tech sales or medical sales, but you've been in freight sales.
I haven't, yes. Yep. So with freight sales, I'll say it's a ride. There's ups and downs. It's day to day, but you get to build so many relationships, like I said, with customers and carriers. I think it's amazing. I love what I do, and I think that's very important to love what you do.
Yeah.
So I would say give it a shot and come move some freight.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, last piece of advice for those folks maybe entering into the freight sales world. Say I'm a fresh grad, I'm starting at Fifth Wheel Freight or wherever logistics tomorrow. What would you tell me to focus on, and what things would you tell me to not worry about?
Yeah, I would say just starting out, focus on especially if you haven't been in sales or made cold calls before, get comfortable on the phone. Get comfortable talking to carriers and customers that you're cold calling. That's so important because that's what you're doing 75% of the day is making calls. So get comfortable on the phone. Get comfortable with, the systems we use to be knowledgeable and to be able to put those into use to benefit yourself and to win. And then just don't worry about the no's because...
Fair enough.
Yeah, you're going to get a lot of those starting off in a typical sales position. You're going to call and they're going to deny you and say no. Don't worry about it. Just brush it off and keep going. So that's how I got to where, I am right now is doing that.
Yeah, got to be patient.
Yes, definitely.
Cool. Well, thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thanks for listening to Inside Freight by Fifth Wheel Freight, where we break down the logistics topics that matter to brokers, shippers, and carriers. FWF is a third-party logistics